8, which authorizes state regulation of kidney dialysis clinics. Limits charges for patient care. It is initiative status. The speakers are, in support, Guadalupe Tellez, Sharif Ali, and Suzanne Jimenez. Between the three of you, you have 3 minutes. Use it however you wish. Please make sure you hold the mic close because otherwise we won't hear you. Your time begins now. We will restart the clock.
Hello, my name is Guadalupe Tellez. I'm a registered nurse and a proud Democrat. I work in a clinic which treats people with kidney failure. More than 66,000 Californians need dialysis in order to survive, but they're not getting the quality care they deserve. As a dialysis nurse, my job is to ensure that patients get that life-saving treatment they deserve. Unfortunately, greedy dialysis companies prioritize profit over patient care, and therefore they're ill-equipped to provide quality patient care. Patients have reported blood stains, cockroaches, and severe understaffing in their clinics. This is unacceptable, unjust, and undemocratic. A core mission of the California Democratic Party is to, quote, hold health insurers and providers accountable for the quality of care. And this is the goal of Proposition 8. Under Proposition 8, the dialysis companies would be pushed to spend more money on staffing, medical equipment, and improved facilities. This investment will restore some dignity to patients and reduce the risk of infection. The two main players have the money to compete. Davida and Fresenius reported a combined profit of $3.9 billion from their dialysis industry in the United States. That is big money. Also, the staffing issues are supporters who were denied vacation because they were forced to cover shifts for the people that are being paid to be here in the opposition. Proposition 8 has brought support from Democrats, including 21 county central committees. I urge you to recommend an endorsement on Proposition 8.
Hello, my name is Sharif Ali. I'm a kidney transplant recipient and a former dialysis patient. At age 33, I was given news that would change my life. I was experiencing kidney failure and I would have to go on dialysis. As a barber at the time, I had to get to dialysis early in the morning before I opened the shop. Every time I would get to dialysis, for my shift, they were always short-staffed. Sometimes only one patient care technician for all of the early morning shifts. This is extremely dangerous because two times I bottomed out, which means my blood pressure dropped extremely low. The patient care technician was too busy to notice, and another patient had to yell to draw attention to them to come help me out. On top of that, there were constantly gnats flying around us doing our treatment, often landing on our exposed skin. And we were no stranger to roaches approaching near our machines. But I'm very fortunate. I received a kidney transplant, but I still worry about the conditions.
Your time has expired. Thank you very much. Speaking of opposition, Lily Close and Dr. Peter Chu. We have 3 minutes between the two of you.
Is it on? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
but slowly close and speak.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Peter Chu. I'm one of the co-chair of the Rules Committee. I'm speaking against Prop 8. I received my MD degree from Stanford and my Doctor of Public Health degree from Oakland, and I specialize in family medicine and occupational medicine. I practiced in the San Francisco South Bay area for many years in primary care, emergency medicine, and occupational medicine. Currently, I'm an adjunct clinical professor of medicine at Stanford Medical School. I don't have any international interest in this matter. I just want to come out and speak against Prop 8. I don't think it's a good idea because it's implemented. It will be harmful to dialysis patients. Proposition 8 requires dialysis clinic clinic to issue refunds to patients or patient payers or insurance carriers for revenue above 115% of the cost of direct patient care and healthcare improvements. So we're hoping that with that, the clinics would spend the money on patient improvement, but there will be unintended consequences. The problem is, in addition to the direct costs, there are indirect costs involved in running a clinic. So Prop 8, the way it's written, the direct costs such as spending on clinic coordinators, insurance, accounting services, legal services, regulatory compliance, facility security, and even probably the medical director would not be covered. So anyway, these indirect costs are not going to go away. So most likely the clinics cannot make ends meet and they might close the clinic. And in the end, the patient suffers. And all those companies own the clinics, they will not have any incentive to build new facility. The demand for dialysis is ever increasing. And if that is the case, then more dialysis patients will not be able to get the dialysis and they will die. So if this Prop 8 is implemented, it will be detrimental to the patient, and we should oppose Prop 8.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, my name is Willie Pillow. I want to first give you a case of those who have come out in opposition to Prop 8. I want to take a look at the Silicon Valley Black Chamber of Commerce. I want to take a look at the AMVETS Department of California, the American GI Forum of California, the Military Officers Association of California, the California Medical Association, American Nurses Association of California, and on and on and on. This is not about making sure that we get dialysis treatment for those that are at risk. This is about going around my community once again and asking the Democratic Party then to seal the stamp, and then that is to me undermined. Why should we remain and stay a Democrat if you're going to seal us and then put us at risk because someone wants to go to the ballot instead of going to the community?
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yes.
Mr. Cordova, Ray?
Madam Chair, I move we oppose Proposition 8.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Is there a second? Thank you, John. Jim? Veronica?
Well,
Then Melissa?
there's all kinds of questions on this, on both sides of the debate. What was put to me as one of the key elements is the staffing and cost. And that the current ratio endangers us all when you're undergoing dialysis. If somebody is not there to spot you, you can bleed out in 2 minutes or less.
Yes.
And that the current staffing ratio has one qualified person supervising 10 or shifts of 10.
Boom!
And this will change that, demanding a patient to a treatment person ratio that is safe for us.
Yeah.
It's in there. It may be the most important part of it that's not dealing with the finances that may capitate what they can receive for providing the service. Let's make it safe for people to have dialysis and not overwork the union members
Yes.
or non-union members
Yes.
in this case.
Yes.
Make it safe for us. I would be supportive.
Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, please. Igor?
I would like to stand with my brothers and sisters in SEIU-UHW and within many of our brothers and sisters elsewhere in labor and ask if I might be able to make a substitute motion in support of Prop 8.
Hold on. What has to happen is this motion would have to be voted down. Okay? And then we'll have to do the resolution. All right? Daroka? I'm sorry.
So let's start from fundamentals. Why is the healthcare system in the United States the most expensive in the world? And the answer has one word, and that word is profit. And the most progressive parts of the ACA were the parts that went after both providers and insurance companies to say that you need to match public sector provision of healthcare, I think Medicare and so forth, with their efficiencies, and limit the amount that you're taking away from patient care to put into profit. That was and remains one of the most important achievements of the ACA. And in fact, this legislation uses the same basic formula to come up with its number of 115%. Anytime a citizens movement, a people's movement goes after profit, the answer the response from the profit makers will always be, okay, we're going to shut down. We're going to fire people. This is a job killer. Every one of us have heard that.
It's a joke.
But the fact is, no, it's not a joke. It's how we have to discuss these things and talk them out, and there's lots of people on the other side of this who I respect tremendously. But I'm going to vote to support Prop 8 because at the bottom line, I think the only way that we're going to make healthcare a right in this country is when we are passing laws that go after profit and that mandate that for-profit companies put patients first. This is an initiative brought by people who work for companies that are posting billions of dollars in profit and yet don't want to give fair working conditions to their members. They're coming to the people of California to intervene on their behalf with their bosses in order to set public policy that's good for patients and workers. The Democratic Party should be on that side. Thank you.
Now we're cooking.
Melissa?
I want to reiterate what Veronica said, and thank you for that. I also want to point out that CalPERS has endorsed this. LULAC has endorsed this. We have a large coalition of unions and other organizations who all endorse this ballot measure because, frankly, it is a brilliant, democratic, labor-backed initiative that uses companies' greed to reinvest in patient care and make sure that our patients and our workers are the top priority and not profit. These companies are investing, these two companies, DaVita Dialysis and Frenzias, have invested $6 million into this no campaign. So is our party bought, or do we decide for ourselves that we stand with labor and we're going to do this? Thank you.
Madam Chair, sisters and brothers, my good brother in the back who made that presentation talked about the cockroaches. My bride goes to LA Fitness. She came home one day, she said, there's cockroaches in the bathroom. I called the health department. They were out there the next day, that night the place was absolutely spotless clean. If I'm taking dialysis treatment, I see a cockroach, I'm going straight to the health department and I'm going to get a fix right there. This is the UHW, my good brothers and sisters, they proposed 2 bills in the California State Legislature on this very same issue. And because it was such a bad idea, because it puts patients' lives at risk, the bills were shelved. The California Legislature would not address that. The measure doesn't cover Medicare Medi-Cal patients who compromise 90% of the patients in dialysis centers. And of the revenues generated over the artificially low limits set by this measure, not a single dime goes back to the patients. It's returned to the insurance companies. Where is the logic in that? Prescribing patient medical care through a ballot measure is harmful. I see this tried before. You cannot legislate health care. Be very careful with that. Be careful what you pray for, you might get. The ballot measure only allows for specific items of dialysis care to be eligible to be reimbursed. And left out are many vital items such as the majority of dialysis patients are low income, just like my brother Willie Below said, medically very fragile, Latino, and African American. They're at least able to fight back against the dangerous effects of this measure on their treatment. I trust the CMA, the California Medical Association, the Chronic Care Coalition, and just about every reputable medical care organization that is in opposition to this. Before I close, Madam Chair, I talked about my bride. She's been my bride for 58 years.
Yes.
I have a question. Do you have any knowledge as to the percentage of patients in dialysis that are treated under Medicare and Medi-Cal? My understanding is that it's about 80 to 90%. So that means to me that they get Medicare and Medi-Cal reimbursement.
90.
It is 90%? Thank you. That was my question. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
No problem. A short time ago, I went on a tour of a DaVita facility for dialysis. They were prepared for me to come and see them. And still, on that visit, many of my concerns about this unregulated industry were prevalent. They were not encouraging their patients to seek transplant, which is the only life-saving procedure that can save them. They were telling them that they could stay on dialysis for up to 40 years, which is not likely. They were also administering drugs on their own profit-based agenda, which was not supported by medical evidence, because it was a way of charging the government to make more money off the patients that they had in their facility. I'm very concerned because this is, dialysis is one of the few single-payer health programs we have in this country, and it's paid for by the government since the 60s. And if we're going to pay for it, this is coming out of our tax dollars. We need to make sure that this industry is regulated and that they are performing science-based procedures and that they are not misguiding their patients to stay on a risky treatment plan when transplants are available.
Tell the truth. Good.
James?
Still in the dark ages.
Melissa, could you pass the mic? Thank you.
I appreciate the chair's indulgence. I just felt compelled in the heart to speak because I see somebody in the audience that I did a lot of work with as in my former life as a union organizer. He's one of the most talented social workers you ever want to meet. He's one of the best trade unionists you ever want to meet. And he kept me sane in a really bad time in the labor movement for me. Martha Ward, who's a recipient and was impacted by this, and the only reason he's here is because he cares deeply, not just about himself, but the other people that hope to benefit and hopefully a yes on these passes. So I just felt really compelled to do that, and I appreciate the indulgence.
I'm sorry, Kim.
I don't really share much on a personal level, but I live in Stockton, California, and about 3 years ago, my husband was shot. Well, rest in peace, he's deceased now. He was shot 8 times at a local gas station, and he actually survived his injuries, but he had to go through dialysis. And in Stockton, we're a very rural area, and a piece of why he is no longer here is because he did not follow through with his dialysis procedures. And the reason why he did not follow through those procedures is because the inhumane way in treatment that dialysis center treated his patients. When you talk about having one nurse to 8 patients, that is really real. When you talk about the conditions of unkept facilities, that is real. There needs to be a system in place to regulate these facilities and hold some accountability. So with that being said, I am going to be voting yes to support this bill.
No, go home.
Nima?
Yeah, if these clinics allow unionization had happened, we wouldn't have those issues. So I'll be supporting this as well.
Did you wish to speak, Cesar? Go ahead.
I call a question on the motion.
Questions being called, all in favor of the question call? Okay, all right, so here's where we are. The motion was to oppose Proposition 8. Okay, that is the motion. That is the motion. I want you to be very clear, okay? The question that Igor said is, what do we do? Well, if you want to vote on something different, vote this down. All right? Either you vote to accept that, or you vote it down. All right? So again, what's on in front of you is to oppose Proposition 8. All in favor? By show of hands, to oppose Proposition 8. Please hold up your hands. Okay? Okay. That fails. That's.
I move that we.
Hold on, listen, please. That obviously fails, but all in favor to oppose it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All opposed to the opposed. Please hold up your hands. The negative of the negative. All right, thank you. So that is obviously fails. So I'm looking for
I move that we support Proposition 8.
Thank you. So the new motion on the floor is to support Proposition 8. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any need for further discussion? Okay, Nick, you're first. And I saw right out of the corner of my eye.
Thank you. So of all the initiatives that we were reviewing, this is the one I struggled with the most. I've met with people I respect on both sides, brothers and sisters from labor on both sides, patients on both sides, and people who are working in clinics on both sides of this initiative. There are clearly issues with the dialysis industry. Many of them seem to be localized into key areas, rural areas, or places where the funding isn't there. But there are also exceptional clinics. A friend of mine, a colleague who I worked with for many years and has passed away, used to have meetings around campaigns and work when he was at the dialysis clinics, and that clinic was operated exceptionally well and at a standard of service that he did well under, and I got to see firsthand. And then I hear from our brothers and sisters in the IAFF about the calls to the clinics and their general public services, and for this initiative, I really see lots of problems that need to be solved, and what I'm missing is how this initiative is solving those. Where are the patient ratio calls of need? Where is the accountability of that? And so I can't oppose this initiative because I think that there is a serious issue here. I also urge us not to support it. I think that there are good people that are seeing this as an attack on their careers and their livelihoods. There are people that are working and doing a good job, and this issue seems to call for a very nuanced response that includes regulation and standards and a healthy debate within the legislature that I'm just not seeing. So I have a feeling I'll be voting to oppose all the motions that we're having today, but I wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
Madam Chair, sisters and brothers, and my dear sister Kimberly, your story touched my heart. And anyone else who's been affected by bad care at a dialysis center or your doctor's office anywhere, there is nothing in this bill that talks about care. Or in the bond measure, rather. Being a co-chair of this committee, I've been on this committee about 24 years now. And I really enjoy working with my colleagues. They're the best people in the world to work with. And sometimes we get into some real hellacious arguments, but damn, we love each other. I go to the Secretary of State's website because I am a co-chair. I will have to be writing some resolutions, marking them down, marking them up. But I go to that Secretary of State's website and I pull down the entire text of the legislation. And there is nothing in that legislation, this dialysis bill, that addresses patient care.
That's true.
Yep.
Good, that's true.
No, it does not do that. But let me say, I won't interrupt you. And the California State Legislature, that's where we should really address patient care. You cannot legislate patient care. It's very dangerous to do that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'm going to follow Cordova's rule here. I mean, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Mr. Cordova, but my disagreement, and also Nick, is that if these clinics were organized and represented by labor, that would improve patient care.
Yeah.
Also, directly said it.
Okay, Nima, just one point. This proposition doesn't unionize dialysis. I just want to clarify that.
All right, Melissa? Thank you, Madam Chair. So I would just like to address a few of the concerns that people have raised. So when we're talking about care, I want to explain for a second for maybe members of the committee who aren't quite familiar with the term medical loss ratio. So the Affordable Care Act uses a medical loss ratio whereby it states that 85% of revenue needs to be invested back into patient care and 15% essentially cap on profit. So it incentivizes using the money collected to go directly into patient care. So another thing we talked about here, this also incentivizes investment in rural care. So when we talk about the fact that there are disparities between some of these clinics, where some might be better than others, this across the board is a signal to the dialysis industry that it needs to clean up its act and invest the money that it collects back into patient care. So it ties, for the first time, revenue to patient care and outcomes, which is critical. I also want to point out that McDonald's gets inspected more frequently than dialysis clinics. And if we're okay with that, then sure, go ahead and oppose this. But if you're not okay with that, if the fact that we have medical health centers that are inspected less frequently, and we have an industry that's less regulated, we need to support this measure. Thank you.
With all due respect to Brother Cordova, I just don't, it's just not true what's being said here. This bill does cover patient care. It's all about patient care. And it includes provisions for the Department of Health to be able to adjust what the definition of patient care is. If these companies can make a legitimate case that a cost is related to keeping people alive, then they can bring that to the Department of Health and say this needs to be part of this ratio. But they need to make that case, Nick. That is, the purpose of this is to finally put in a regulatory regime over this unregulated industry. Would it be better if it was even more inclusive? And would it be better? Obviously, but how many times have we been here talking about a ballot initiative where opponents come and say, this isn't universal, when we know that if we made it more universal, they'd spend even more money to kill it. So let's just be real about it.
Igor next.
Be good.
I associate myself with all the comments that have just been made by the previous three speakers. And the only thing that needs to be added is, while I do recognize that we do have some sisters and brothers in labor on the other side of this, the preponderance of labor organizations and the ones that actually provide patient care do support this measure and are behind this measure. So let's stand with the labor, with the brothers and sisters who actually support our brothers and sisters and mothers and grandmothers and grandfathers when they have the need to go in for this type of care.
Yes.
Nick?
I want to acknowledge and say that I definitely respect everything that folks are saying. I see policy tools that we've used in other places that more effectively achieve the goals of solving the problems of safety. Yeah, McDonald's gets inspected more frequently than dialysis clinics. Let's inspect dialysis clinics more frequently. We need to organize the dialysis clinics. I represent the cannabis industry. Every single operator that gets a license in the state of the cannabis industry has to sign a labor peace agreement if they have more than 20 employees. That is a superb tool to encourage organizing. If we want to limit the profits and thus the cost of the healthcare industry, then we should limit it for the full industry like the ACA did for the insurance industry. I don't like these companies. I don't like what I've seen that they've done to the patients that have been in the clinics where it's been bad. I also don't like an initiative that is using those bad things for policy proposals that don't connect and are not correlated to them when we've seen initiatives where we know there's proven policy to solve this. So I'm going to stay with my new position, but I definitely respect the members of this committee and everyone in this room on both sides.
Michael? Okay, all right. There's been a motion to call the question. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor of calling the question?
Aye.
All right. No opposition? All right, thank you. We're on the main motion. Motion is to support Proposition 8. All in favor, please raise your hands. Okay. Hold on a second. Opposed?
Five. Forget that guy.
Abstaining?
I'm sick.
Okay, so the ayes have it.